Hello guys, my name is Arnaldo. I'm here to talk about our first Black Friday with Kubernetes on production, running critical apps on it, really on production, not kidding. So really a little bit about me. I started working at 11 on Street Fair. I was fired on the first day, really. Because I couldn't lift the boxes. The boxes were very heavy for me. So I learned very early on life that life could be tough. So it was very good for me to learn that early on life. After that, I went to sell ice cream, which I hated, but I did it successfully, so that was cool. After that, I learned with my father electronics at 13 years old. Then professionally, I went to study electronics at 16, but at 13, I learned it with my father. After that, I was a system administrator at 18, and I've worked with networks and stuff like that, with Linux and Network and Windows NT. Awesome. Until 21, which I switched to programming. C, PHP at the time. I had two startups. One of them was with Wi-Fi, and the other with telecom, voice over IP. And professionally, I went from the startups to the big companies. So my path was upside down. The people usually, works for Google and stuff like that, the big companies, then great startups. I did the opposite. Not that I worked for Google, but anyway. I have 4 kids. I like skateboarding, I like saxophone, jazz, and right now I am SRE manager at Luiza Labs. So, what is Luiza Labs? Luiza Labs was created at 2013 to do only research and development for a company called Magazine Luiza. Actually, Luiza Labs it is a company. It is a child company of another company called Magazine Luiza. I will talk about Magazine Luiza. So Luiza Labs was created in 2013. It brought a whole new culture to Magazine Luiza, and we were creating products in a very fast way, faster than Magazine Luiza IT. So eventually we took over the whole IT from Magazine Luiza, the whole operation. So right now we develop and operate everything, every IT from Magazine Luiza. And we don't believe in innovation departments isolated from other departments. We believe in that innovation happens together with operation. So that's what we do. What is Magazine Luiza? It's not a magazine. It's a retail company that has 60 years old, 800 stores over the country, over Brazil. It was founded in Franca, São Paulo, Brazil. Franca, it's a small city in the countryside of Brazil. The company itself has a very, very interesting story that I will not take our time talking about it, but you can Google about it. We make a little more than 4 billion in annual revenue. We have several digital selling channels, and in 2016, a crisis year, especially in Brazil, we had the most valued stock worldwide, not only in retail companies, but every every market. Now on Black Friday, which you guys are here for that, right? So I'll talk a little about that. Okay, so giving a little perspective on the areas inside Luiza Labs in 2014, because before that, the way that Magazine Luiza ran IT was completely different than the way that we run IT right now. So I have to tell a little timeline on that. So the talk's not really focused on the technical details on Kubernetes. Hopefully I don't let you down. On operations, we had two really technical guys receiving demands from everyone. Who's everyone? The developers, mostly. We had around 40 developers creating features, crazy features all the time. And we had these two guys answering to them. So we had this crazy environments and this big AWS bill. We run most of our things in AWS, like 95%, I think. And we had an architecture area that we called architecture, but it's not it wasn't a classic architecture area, as in we didn't design the architecture of the applications and give to developers so the developers just write the code. We acted like on the developer culture and the automation of infrastructure and stuff like that. So the developers, when they write code, they know that the code they write is not their child, as in if other developers criticize their work, they are criticizing their code, not them. So it's we try to increase the quality of the code without getting into the people's ego and stuff like that. And how we deployed the code in 2014? Manually via Chef and Fabric, and mostly that. And on Black Friday, right on from Thursday on 11:59, we went down. And we stayed down for a whole hour. Maybe a little more than that, maybe a little less than that, but around an hour. It was a shame. 2015, operations. One manager, one coordinator, 4 guys, way more organized. Developers, around 100 people. Architecture, same thing. How we run deploy code, Chef, Fabric, Ansible, Rundeck. Around 26 minutes down on Friday. This 26 minutes was around midnight and 30, something like that. So we lost plenty of money as well, but not as much money as 2014. So it was way better, but very bad as well. And this year, actually, the CEO was very happy with us, which is crazy, right? We went down for 26 minutes. So I can't say how much money we lost because it's something that I'm not allowed to say, unfortunately. But because I would like to say, it's a very interesting number. We make more than 4 billion per year, so I don't know. You can make some math on that. Why did the CEO was happy with us? Because we were transparent with what happened, what we did, how we acted, and we went down because one service, one handler of a monolith API, a very big monolith Java API. Not that the problem is Java, right? You know that. The problem is not the tools, not the language. It's how you run it, how, you know. I don't like Java, but that's not a problem. The thing is, the problem was with one specific route of that API that was calculating the delivery cost of the products, which was critical for selling the products. So that service went down, and we quickly switched it to another new API, which wasn't tested very well. That was the reason that new API wasn't on production. So we had we didn't have a choice. We had to just switch to that new API. We did that, and the IT on the past, the teams on the past, they were afraid to bring those problems to the light. So the way we work is we bring the problems to the light and stuff like that. So the CEO was very happy, and okay, we stayed just, or I don't know, 26 minutes down. So breaking up a little the timeline and not jumping straight to 2016. Just to creating a little tension. Kubernetes. We decided that, of course, we needed something needed a little more than Ansible or Chef Fabric and stuff like that to deploy our stuff and to run our stuff in production, because up to that point we just had EC2 and stuff like that running in production, and we ran some stuff on Elastic Beanstalk as well, but we didn't like it very much. So we tested some orchestration tools, and we liked Kubernetes a lot. And I won't run to the reasons for that, because I think if you guys are here, it's because you already know that. So the basics of Kubernetes were quickly understood. We are running production apps on Kubernetes since May 2016. Those production apps were deployed by hand using kube control by my team, by the architecture team. And we were running those production apps on AWS. And we took one specific application that was the mobile site that received lots of traffic, and we ran it on Google Cloud, on GKE, for I think 3 months. And the mobile site used it to run on South America, on AWS. And it's very important, the latency is very important for us. As the latency increases, our conversion rate decreases. It's e-commerce rule, right? So Google Cloud isn't on South America yet. It will become available in the next few weeks, I think. But at that time, it wasn't. So when we put the mobile site on North America to run on GKE, we were worried that conversion rate would decrease or something like that. It didn't. So magically, it didn't. So it's something that to have in mind. Google Network is awesome. And I don't know how they do that, but okay. So we needed a quick way to, quick and easy way to deploy applications to production and to any environment that we wanted, because our experience at that point to deploy applications use kube control wasn't very easy, because I mean we can learn the YAMLs and kube control and stuff like that very fast, I think, but we can't train 100 developers to do that. And if you do that, you can expect to have many mistakes, and it doesn't scale at all. It doesn't scale. So we went through some platforms as services like OpenShift, Days. That at that time it wasn't Days Workflow; it had another name. I don't remember. And we decided to create our tool. That's called Luiza. Why is that? Because we wanted to if we had a Kubernetes cluster, we wanted to just drop the tool there and deploy the application without changing the team workflow, without touching the team workflow. So it kind of works as Heroku. And it builds on top of build packs. It's as simple as possible, and it was written by one full-time engineer, which is not really a good thing, but anyway. He was actually learning Go and Kubernetes at that point, and which is something to keep in mind. Those things are very easy to learn, actually. Kubernetes is complex, but you can learn. Luiza API run as a pod, and the CLI is kind of Heroku. With Kubernetes and Luiza, before Black Friday, more than 700 deployments were made in production, like in 2 months. This is crazy, because those 700 deployments were made mostly by a single team that was working crazy, developing features on the new delivery cost API that broke the last year in 2015. So, which was actually a rewrite of that new API. So it was crazy, and a sign of success, both of Kubernetes and Luiza. So it really a good thing. With Luiza, developers don't write Docker files or YAMLs. It's simpler. They just write a proc file, and that's it. Operations quickly understood Kubernetes. Architecture worked with operations. Operations understood quickly. Developers' friction with ops reduced. Yeah, that's it. With how we scale the clusters, the Kubernetes clusters, we do that in a very simple way, and we do that in a very manual way as well. Scaling up, we just increase the instance count on auto-scaling groups. Scaling down, it's a little more trickier. You have to pay attention on the termination policy on the auto-scaling group, and we run kube control drain on newest or oldest instances, depending on the termination policy that you chose. Then you decrease the instance count on auto-scaling group. That's it. What issues we had with the cluster, with the first cluster that we had in production? Some load balancers were edited directly on the AWS dashboard. Those load balancers, those elastic load balancers, they were provisioned by Kubernetes through Luiza. So when the developer deploy an application, Luiza uploads the application to the Luiza API. Luiza API creates the deployment on Kubernetes and also scales the application inside Kubernetes and provision an elastic load balancer through a service on Kubernetes. So who controls the elastic load balancer on AWS? Kubernetes. You can't edit manually. You can't customize anything on the elastic load balancer by hand on AWS. But some people edited it by, for instance, adding SSL certificate, for example. So when Kubernetes decided to reload the service, we lost the certificate. So the service went down. We had those issues. We had too many API calls on AWS. We had too many routes on AWS table because we were using Kubernetes as the network driver. We weren't using an overlay driver because we didn't know about it. We discovered it when we had to scale the cluster. So very bad. The nodes were on outscaling group, but we had a single master. We didn't have two masters. The master wasn't HA. So very amateurish, right? For a multi-billion company. What the cluster was in a single AZ as well. Very bad. So AZ as in availability zone. If you don't use AWS, you aren't use it for that. If you use Google Cloud, it's just zone. So which brings us to a point. Kubernetes works so well that we first installed it with kubeapp, which I hate, by the way, and we forgot about it. We just focused on Luiza and with giving Luiza CLI to developers and stuff like that, then we forgot about the cluster itself. So that's not something we do. You must do. But anyway. So right before Black Friday, we had that tension. Don't touch the environment because it was very, it seemed to be bulletproof because we made several stress tests and versus, I have a better version of it that will avoid possible issues. That I'm not sure that will happen. I have no idea. But if they happen, I'm down. So my position was, I will bring a new cluster with COPS, with HA, with all the things. But my director gave me a straight order. You don't do that. Don't touch the environment because it's well tested. All the teams are very comfortable with that. And the application owners, they must be comfortable with their applications on production, and they are comfortable with those. So leave the environment as is, and we are safe. So, and I wasn't happy with that. And I said to him, no. But I have to obey him. So what I did, I brought a new cluster with COPS. But I configured it as a fallback cluster with multi-AZ, HA, and everything. And I copied all the apps by copying the etcd tree. So the developers didn't have to deploy their applications again. And I asked for another run of stress testing on the new cluster, and the metrics were fine. That new cluster had an overlay driver, of course. All those issues were solved on the new cluster. We configured DNS weighted records. So with 0 weight on the new cluster and 100% on the old cluster. So if anything started to happen, we could switch to the fallback cluster. So my director was, okay, I'm happy with that. I kind of didn't touch the environment. And the application owners were happy too, because from their perspective, they were using the old cluster, because they were. So 2016 Black Friday, developers, around 120. Architecture focused on Kubernetes, trees, and automation. How deploy and run code. We had Ansible, Rundeck, Kubernetes, and Teresa. We didn't went down whatsoever. No incidents at all. And we had our best year. I'm not allowed to say how much we did on the Friday and on our first hour or anything like that, but what I said on the beginning, our company had the most valued stock on the year. So, and also one developer that I was allowed to have one developer in my team just focused on Teresa, and this year I have 7. So it's something that I could prove to the company that those things are the right things. So what happened in 3 years? 2014, 40 developers, 60 minutes down. Ops was manually touching the environment. 2015, 100 developers, 26 minutes down. Some more automation and way more freedom to developers. 2016, 120 developers, 0 minutes down. Even more automation. Developers could deploy critical apps to production whenever they want without notes. We trade openly. We are an open trade company. So I hear all the time that those kind of companies have to have control all the time, and developers can't deploy code to production, and they have to fill forms like saying what impact the application have, the features have. The truth is, they don't know, and they will fill a form just to fill the form, and they will get bored by that, and that doesn't work by our experience. So what we are doing, and that proves that, is giving more control to them by focusing in small teams that taking care of building a pipeline and getting the right developers and let them release. So the right people. Right tools are important, but the tools are secondary. More mistakes. On Teresa, we chose to use Go Swagger. It's painful. It's very, very, very painful. Single developer for a while. This is something that if you don't have a choice, do that. Put one developer. Work it for us. I knew that, but it's something bad. No tests on Teresa. Takeaways. Always educate people and always care about it. Don't forget about it. Don't think that you have to run all the time and can't educate people. Education must be in your framework. Empower people and get rid of anyone doing anything close to the opposite. If you have anyone in your company making others feeling bad, get rid of them. right away. If you rely on strict and slow processes to release software, you might have the wrong people. So I'm talking about the people, right? Again. So, and this is Kubernetes talk, Black Friday talk, but Kubernetes is about people. Kubernetes is still hard, but only a few people need to understand it so that you can use it effectively. Move to the cloud native apps as soon as possible, even if you're running on-premise, because that doesn't matter, actually. If you have a cloud native architecture, even if you're running on-premise, when you need or you want to move to the cloud, you might be able to do it without changing anything, without stopping anything. Thanks. I'll take questions now. Yeah, please.
So did you use your backup cluster?
No, I didn't use my backup cluster.
It was not needed.
Sorry?
It was not needed.
No, it wasn't needed. By luck.
Did you actually switch to like the new cluster after that?
No, I didn't switch. What we did was we brought up an even better cluster, because I trained my team actually, each and every one of them to bring up a new cluster, so that they don't depend technically on me anymore. That's something that was also a mistake in the past.
Current solution, COPS deployed cluster?
Yeah, COPS, always.
And I have another question about this Teresa thingy. Is it open source?
Yeah, open source here. Yes.
Where did you run your stateful apps?
Sorry?
Where did you run your stateful applications?
Oh, with Ansible and stuff like that on EC2. We didn't put the stateful apps on Kubernetes yet. Here, you.
I repeat this question.
Oh, okay.
Did you use your other cluster?
Okay.
What did run on Kubernetes at that time for Black Friday? Because you just mentioned this delivery cost app from microservice, which was failing the year before. Was there more running on Kubernetes or everything? Or
Can you repeat this?
what kind of apps or what apps of your e-commerce site or microservices were running on Kubernetes?
Oh.
Because you only mentioned the delivery cost.
Okay.
Of the microservice.
Delivery cost, microservice, marketplace stuff. I don't know. I don't know what. Actually, this is something that it doesn't go through me. So the developers can create apps by themselves and deploy by themselves. So right now, I have no idea what kind of apps are there. But at that time, delivery cost, marketplace, I don't know. I don't remember. I think it was around 15 apps and varied stuff. I don't remember. Yes.
How you're doing updates in production?
Updates in production on the cluster,
No, on the application.
on the application. Teresa deploy. Rolling updates on Kubernetes.
What Teresa does?
What Teresa does? It creates another deployment entity on Kubernetes. So it does a whole lot of things it abstracts that for the developers. But basically, it creates another, at the end of the process, it creates another Docker image and creates another deployment entity on Kubernetes and running updates it.
You're changing the application selector for the services.
Yes. Yes.
That's when you
Yeah, you can see as a blue-green deployment. Canary blue-green. Yes.
So we have this
Right. Right. We have one cluster per environment. So we have one environment we called stage, and we have another called production. And up to this point, in the past, we use it to upgrade clusters by creating a new one and switching all the things to that. And that was a painful process because for obvious reasons. And right now we are upgrading the cluster in place. Okay, thanks guys.